Leviticus chapter 7. Tell Aaron, these are the rules about guilt offerings. It is a most holy offering. They must kill the animal for a guilt offering at the place where they kill the animals for the burnt offerings. The priest must throw the blood on the sides of the altar. The person who brings the offering must offer all the fat from the animal. That includes the fat part of its tail and the fat that is around its inside parts. He must remove the 2 kidneys and the fat that is on them. He must also remove the bottom part of the liver. He must offer these to the Lord. Then the priest must burn all the parts of the animal on the altar as a gift to the Lord. It is a guilt offering. Any male person who belongs to a priest's family may eat the meat that remains. They must eat it in the holy place because it is very holy. These rules are the same for sin offerings and for guilt offerings. The meat belongs to the priest who offers the animal to make a person clean from their sin. But it is different with burnt offerings. The skin of the animal that the priest burns on the altar belongs to that priest. If a person brings a grain offering that they have cooked in an oven or on a flat plate, that offering belongs to the priest who offers it to the Lord. It is different if the grain offering has dry grain or the person has mixed the grain with olive oil. The grain from those offerings belongs to all the sons of Aaron in equal parts. These are the rules about sacrifices for friendship offerings, which people may offer to the Lord. If they do it to thank the Lord, they must bring these things together with the animal for sacrifice: flat loaves of bread that have olive oil mixed in the flour, flat biscuits that have olive oil on them, and round loaves that have olive oil mixed in the best flour. None of these may have any yeast in them. For their offering, they must also bring loaves of bread that have yeast in the flour. They must offer one of each kind of these grain offerings to the Lord. These belong to the priest who throws the blood on the side of the altar for the friendship offering. The people must eat the meat of the animal for the friendship offering on the same day that they offer it. They must not keep any of the meat until the next day. It is different if people bring a friendship offering because of a promise that they have made to the Lord, or if they do it because they choose to make a gift to the Lord. These people may eat some of the meat on the day that they offer the sacrifice. They may also eat the meat that remains on the next day. But if any meat still remains on the 3rd day, they must burn it completely. If people eat any of the meat on the 3rd day, the Lord will not accept their offering. The meat has become unclean. So God will not bless them for their offering. Instead, he will punish anyone who eats it on the 3rd day. If any of the meat touches something that is unclean, nobody may eat it. Instead, they must burn it completely. But anyone who is clean may eat the meat that remains. Anyone who has not made themselves clean must not eat the meat of the sacrifice for a friendship offering. If they do that, they will no longer belong to Israel's people. You become unclean if you touch anything that is unclean from a human or from an animal or any other disgusting thing. If that happens, you must not eat the meat sacrifice for the friendship offering which belongs to the Lord. Anyone who eats it will no longer belong with Israel's people. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell Israel's people, you must not eat any fat from bulls, sheep, or goats. You may find the body of an animal that has died by itself, or wild animals have killed it. You must never eat the fat of that animal, but you may use the fat for any other purpose. You must not eat the fat of an animal that you have offered to the Lord as a gift. Anyone who does that will no longer belong to Israel's people. Wherever you live, you must not eat the blood of any birds or animals. Anyone who eats any blood will no longer belong to Israel's people." Max, the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Israel's people, When anyone brings a sacrifice for the friendship offering to the Lord, they must bring part of it as a gift to the Lord. They must carry it in their own hands to burn on the altar. They must bring the animal's fat and the meat around its ribs. They must lift these up as a special offering to the Lord. The priest will then burn the fat on the altar, but the meat around the ribs will belong to Aaron and his sons. The top part of the back right leg of the animal is a gift to the priest. It will belong to the priest who offers the blood and the fat for the friendship offering. I have taken these parts of the animals that the Israelites bring as their friendship offerings. Those are the ribs that are lifted up to me, and the top part of the right leg that is a gift to the priests. I have taken these parts from the Israelite people and have given them to Aaron the priest and his sons. That will always be the part that belongs to them. The Lord gave this part to the Israelites' offerings to Aaron and his descendants. This started on the day that they became priests to serve the Lord. The Lord commanded the Israelites to do this on the day that Moses anointed them as priests. This part of the offerings would always belong to the priests. These are the rules for burnt offerings, grain offerings, sin offerings, guilt offerings, friendship offerings, and offerings for new priests. The Lord gave these rules to Moses on Mount Sinai. On that day, the Lord commanded Israel's people to start making these offerings to him in the Sinai desert. Leviticus chapter 8. The Lord said to Moses, "Bring Aaron and his sons to the entrance of the tent of meeting. Also bring their special clothes and olive oil to anoint them as priests. Bring the bull for sin offering and 2 male sheep for sacrifices. Bring the basket of flat bread with no yeast in it. Tell all the people to come together in front of the tent of meeting." Moses did what the Lord commanded him to do. All the Israelite people met at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Moses said to the people, "The Lord has commanded us to do this." Moses told Aaron and his sons to stand in front of the people. He washed them with water. Moses put the special shirt on Aaron. He tied the long belt around Aaron. He put the priest's robe on him. Then he put the ephod on him with its belt. He used the belt to tie the ephod to Aaron. He put the breastplate piece on Aaron. He put the Urim and the Thummim in its pocket. Moses put the linen hat on Aaron's head. He fixed the thin gold plate on the front of the hat as a holy crown. Moses did this as the Lord had commanded him to do. Moses took some of the special olive oil. He splashed it on the tabernacle and everything in it. He did this to show that they belonged to God. He splashed oil on the altar 7 times. He put oil on the altar's tools, on the large bowl of water, and on its base. He did this to show that they belonged to God. Then Moses poured some of the oil on Aaron's head to anoint him. This made Aaron ready to serve God as his priest. Then Moses told Aaron's sons to come forward. He put a robe on each of them, tied long cloth belts around them. He put cloth hats on their heads. Moses did this as the Lord had commanded him to do. Then Moses brought the bull for the sin offering. Aaron and his sons put their hands on the bull's head. He killed the bull. Moses took some of the blood on his fingers. He put the blood on the 4 horns of the altar to make the altar clean. He poured the blood that remained on the ground in front of the altar. In this way, he made the altar holy. It was now ready to make sacrifices for sin offerings. Moses removed the fat that was around the inside parts of the bull. He removed the bottom part of its liver, as well as its 2 kidneys and the fat around them. He burned all these parts on the altar. But Moses took outside the camp the parts of the bull that remained. There he completely burned its skin, its meat, and the food in its stomach. Moses did this as the Lord had commanded him to do. Then Moses brought one of the male sheep to be a burnt offering. Aaron and his sons put their hands on the sheep's head. He killed the sheep. Moses splashed its blood on the sides of the altar. He cut the sheep into pieces. He burned its head, the pieces of meat, and the fat on the altar. He used water to wash its inside parts and its legs. He burned the whole sheep on the altar as a burnt offering to the Lord. The smell of this gift, while it was burning, gave pleasure to the Lord. Moses did this as the Lord had commanded him to do. Moses then brought the other male sheep to be a sacrifice for new priests. Aaron and his sons put their hands on the sheep's head. He killed the sheep. Moses took some of its blood. He put it on Aaron's right ear, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Then Moses told Aaron's sons to come forward. He put blood on their right ears, on the thumbs of their right hands, and the toes of their right feet. Then he splashed the blood that remained onto the sides of the altar. Moses took the fat part of the sheep's tail and the fat around its inside parts. He also took the bottom part of the liver and 2 kidneys with their fat. With all the sheep's fat, he took the top of its right back leg. Moses took 1 round loaf of bread from the basket of flat bread that belonged to the Lord. He also took 1 loaf that had olive oil mixed in the flour, and he took 1 flat biscuit. He put them on top of the fat parts of the sheep and its right leg. Then Moses put all of them on the hands of Aaron and his sons. They lifted them up as a special offering to the Lord. Moses took them from their hands and he burned them on the altar on top of the burnt offering. This was an offering for new priests. The smell of this offering while it was burning gave pleasure to the Lord. Then Moses took the meat that was around the sheep's ribs. He lifted it up as a special offering to the Lord. This part belonged to Moses, as the Lord had commanded him. Moses took some of the oil and some of the blood from the altar. He shook them on Aaron and his clothes. He also shook it on Aaron's sons and on their clothes. In this way he made them holy and ready to serve the Lord. Moses said to Aaron and his sons, "Cook the meat that remains at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Eat the meat there with the bread that is in the basket of bread for the offering. That is what the Lord has commanded you to do. Completely burn any meat and bread that remain. You must stay at the entrance of the tent of meeting for 7 days. That is the time to prepare you to serve God as priests. You must not leave until the 7 days have finished. The things that we have done today are what the Lord has commanded us to do. We have done it to make you clean from your sins. Remember to stay at the entrance of the tent of meeting for 7 days and 7 nights. Do everything the Lord has commanded, so that he does not punish you with death. This is what the Lord has commanded me." So Aaron and his sons did everything that the Lord commanded and had told Moses that they must do. Leviticus chapter 9. On the 8th day, Moses told Aaron and his sons and the leaders of Israel to come. He said to Aaron, "Bring a young bull for a sin offering, and bring a male sheep for a burnt offering. They must be perfect animals. Bring them as an offering to the Lord. Then tell Israel's people, bring a male goat for a sin offering. Bring a young cow and a lamb for a burnt offering. The cow and the lamb must be 1 year old, and they must be perfect. Also, bring a bull and a male sheep for a friendship offering that you will offer as a sacrifice to the Lord, and bring a grain offering of flour that is mixed with olive oil. Do this because the Lord will appear to you today." The people brought all the animals and the grain to the front of the tent of meeting as Moses had commanded. All the Israelite people stood together there to worship the Lord. Moses said to the people, The Lord has commanded you to do this so that his bright glory will appear to you." Moses said to Aaron, "Go to the altar to offer your sin offering and your burnt offering to the Lord. Do that to make yourself clean from your sins and to make the people clean from their sins. Also, offer the people's offerings to make them clean from their sins. And the Lord has commanded you to do this." So Aaron went to the altar. He killed the young bull that was a sin offering for himself. Aaron's sons brought the blood to him. He put his finger in the blood and he put it on the four horns of the altar. He poured the blood that remained onto the ground in front of the altar. Aaron took the bull's fat, its kidneys, and the bottom part of its liver. He burnt these parts on the altar as the Lord had commanded Moses. But Moses took the meat and the skin of the bull outside the camp. There he completely burned it. Then Aaron killed the male sheep from the burnt offering. His sons brought the blood to him. He splashed it on the sides of the altar. His sons brought the pieces of sheep to him, including its head. Aaron burnt them on the altar. He washed the sheep's inside parts and its legs. He burned them on the top of the burnt offering on the altar. Then Aaron brought to the altar the male goat, which was a sin offering for the people. He killed it as a sacrifice to make people clean, like the first offering. Then Aaron brought the animal for the burnt offering. He offered it as a sacrifice in the proper way. He also brought the grain offering. He took some of it in his hand. He burnt it on the altar together with the burnt offering of that morning. Aaron killed the bull and the male sheep, which were friendship offerings for the people. His sons brought the blood to him. He splashed it onto the sides of the altar. His sons also took the fat pieces from the bull and from the male sheep. They took the fat part of the tail and the fat part around the insides and the kidneys and the bottom part of the liver. They put those pieces on the meat of the animal's ribs. Aaron burned the fat pieces of the animals on the altar as an offering. Then Aaron lifted up the meat of the ribs and the top part of the right leg of each animal as a special offering to the Lord. He did this as Moses had commanded him to do. Aaron now finished making the sin offering, the burnt offering, and the friendship offering. He lifted up his hands towards the people and he asked God to bless them. Then he came down from the altar. Moses and Aaron went into the tent of meeting. When they came out, they asked God to bless the people. The bright glory of the Lord appeared to all the people. Then the Lord sent a fire to completely burn the burnt offering and the fat pieces that were on the altar. When the people saw this, they shouted loudly. They fell down on their faces towards the ground.
Matthew chapter 28. Early on Sunday morning, as the new day was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went out to visit the tomb. Suddenly there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, rolled aside the stone and sat on it. His face shone like lightning, and his clothing was as white as snow. The guards shook with fear when they saw him, and they fell into a dead faint. Then the angel spoke to the woman. "Don't be afraid," he said. "I know you are looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He isn't here. He has risen from the dead, just as he said would happen. Come see where his body was lying. And now, go quickly and tell his disciples that he has risen from the dead, and he is going ahead of you to Galilee. You will see him there. Remember what I have told you." The woman ran quickly from the tomb. They were very frightened, but also filled with great joy, and